Good evening, everyone. Eclectic Goat here with the dumpster fire of the week. I'm going to apologize to everyone now, including my panelists, because things have just been crazy all week. Those of you who follow me on Twitter are familiar with the fact that, I managed to poison myself mildly on Sunday, and it's been kind of a scramble since. We are one short this evening. Unfortunately, we had a last minute sick call from the gentleman who was going to talk about Scion. So hopefully, we'll be able to get him in at another time. We do, however, have absolutely fabulous panelists. Um, Tom Kane is rejoining us again, and we have Jason Vey, who is the author of Amazing Adventures and all sorts of other things that we're going to talk about. So, welcome, gentlemen, and thank you very much for being here. Thunderstorms and last minute things and everything. Uh, Tom, if you want to talk a little bit for anyone who missed your last performance here and just talk a little bit about how you got into gaming and what your role is.
Oh, honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Um, I'm Tom Kane, and how I got into gaming. Um, well, I had a friend who introduced me to D&D when I was maybe 13. Um, I think that may be a story that a lot of gamers can tell. And we and even before that, I had an amazing teacher who read The Lord of the Rings aloud to me. So that's what primed me for the D&D at 13. Um, T, Lord of the Rings at 11, D&D at 13. You can't beat that combination. And then at maybe around 16, I started writing for Dragon Magazine, and I had I you know moved on from Dragon Magazine, so that when I was maybe 20, I was writing for a number of gaming companies and you know do, doing game writing semi full time. Uh, went on from there to graduate school, studied international politics, and worked for about exactly 18 years teaching international politics at the University of Hull in England, and came back, and I'm now writing fiction. And my Mara of the League series is complete and out in print. It's it follows the life of a Cassandra-like woman as she goes from being a little girl of trying to save her aunt from witch hunters and asking why asking questions about politics that adults don't really want to hear, to growing up and learning more about how the politics of her world work. And by the end of the series, it comes together when she is in her 40s. So it starts out as a book about a child, but it ends up about a book. It ends up as an adult series. And by the time she's in her 40s, she is heading her country's spy services, and she is picking up on clues that an enemy country is about to invade. And this is not something that her king was not a king, it's a pontifex, but the rule of her country. This is not something that the officials in her country want to hear.
I feel like you're giving away spoilers for your own book.
Not really, not really. Um, the spoiler would be whether she convinces them to do anything about it, and what and how, and what gets destroyed first.
Well, it's a spoiler to the second book because the second book ends with her
Okay, yeah,
becoming.
yeah. The fact, I guess, in a sense, the fact that she lives is a spoiler. But on the other hand, you can sort of and you can sort of see that if there are four books in the series, it's and one main character, it's sort of it's hard to hide the fact that that main character is probably still around in book four.
I was talking about the fact that she becomes the head of the spy services
Yeah,
is kind of a spoiler for book two. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. I guess
I am
I do see what you're saying. I do
I
see what
am I am behind. I still have to read the last one. So um all right. Jason? Uh-oh. We have no sound. Hang on a second. Now try. Uh-oh. Jason, you've lost your sound.
I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like
I,
it's like it's like the old cell phone commercials. Can you hear me now?
yeah, can you hear me now? I actually started gaming in 1979, AD&D, the year it came out. My uncle and his friends were in high school at the time. I was 5 years old, and my parents used to drop me off at my grandmother's house every Thursday to go to a bowling league, and I would sit in the basement with my uncle's friends and learned how to play Dungeons and Dragons in 1979. I've been gaming ever since. Um, like Tom, fantasy novels played a big role in me, but it was not Lord of the Rings. It was the Ace paperback series of Conan the Barbarian. So I came at it from Conan, not Lord of the Rings. Um, my dad gave those books to me when I was about 12, and I devoured them all. And Robert E. Howard, to this day, is my all-time favorite writer. I will devour anything that he has. But yeah, so I started gaming in '79, and I never stopped. I have not, like Tom, I can't claim to have written for Dragon Magazine. The only D&D branded um, credit that I have is I worked on Goodman Games' Temple of Elemental Evil. I did the Village of Nulb in that and the first level of the dungeon itself. So that's my D&D branded credit. Other than that, I've got.
Wait, we can blame you for that?
You can blame me for that. For just those two bits. Um, I have dozens and dozens of credits. I've been writing actively in the gaming industry since about 1999. I tell people I'm the most successful game designer you've never heard of. And I've been working for Trollord Games, first as a part-time freelancer and then as a part-time actual staff writer since about 2008, I guess. So
Okay. Yeah, for those who are on the Discord, you'll be familiar with the Troll Lord Games name because I've been talking about them a lot lately. Um, they're a very cool company on very many fronts. Um, I want to say hello to the chat. I've seen a few names that I think are unfamiliar. Rio, unfortunately, apparently is not with us tonight, which, and now I'm going to blame that because he's just like thrown off the whole aura of the chat. He's he still manages to be first, even though he's not actually there, though. Legatus, welcome. Legatus is one of the mods here, and also I would like to thank friend of the channel. We have Chuck. Chuck, I think you are new. Welcome.
yep, Chuck for Trollord with me.
Oh, awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, TLG. I should have been able to figure that out. But
Chuck does pretty much everything for Trollord Games. He has way too much on his plate all the time, and I'm amazed he hasn't gone crazy from
and
it.
yet still managed to be here. So absolutely awesome. Thank you very much for being here. He's making jokes in the chat. We have Rachel. Rachel, I think we missed you last week. I was very sad to not see you. And we apparently also had a Yarny raid, so hopefully the Yarn Witch is lurking in the background as she often does. Eraserhead is our super mod. He will quite often have links I need in the chat before I even know that I need them. Alucard, welcome. I see you all the time in Yarny's chats. I'm not sure I've ever gotten to see you here, so that's also very exciting. Natty is here. Natty, I think for the first time ever, I don't have pizza tonight. I literally could not get to the pizza place in order to get it tonight. I try very hard because this is Slice and Dice to always have a slice of pizza. It's, it's tradition. But Didn't happen today. Hunter was. I always say Hunter was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and then he reminded me that we're now up to the point where it was a couple of months ago. So I was like, but we can't have had that many episodes yet. And I was right. It is Alucard's first time here. Awesome. Welcome.
Hey, mine too.
uh all right. I'm sure we have more people that will trickle in as the show goes. That tends to be the norm. Um so again, we are down one. Pineapple is still the best pizza top. There is a whole pineapple on pizza thing in my chat. They like to wind Eraserhead up. Um,
I am anti pineapple on pizza.
oh, you've just become Eraserhead's favorite person.
I
What
love
about you?
pineapple. It does not belong on pizza.
Uh, I suspect that that is probably my take. I will admit I have never actually tried it, but I don't like hot pineapple.
Then you
So
probably wouldn't like pineapple
so
on pizza.
yeah, so unless you put it on cold after you've cooked the pizza, and that just seems like it would be weird.
Yeah, that would be weird.
I have to say, I have a I I, I have relevant experience here, um, and it ties into gaming sort of. Um, when when I was in California a long time ago, the gaming group I was in, other people in I couldn't afford pizza then, but other people in the gaming group could, and sometimes they would share their pizza with me, and sometimes they would get Hawaiian pizza, which is pineapple and ham, and um, and I thought it was amazing, and since I was sort of dependent on them to be nice. I didn't I didn't get it all that often, and it was rare and inaccessible. And more recently, like not today. Well, this within a year, I've been getting pizza with some friends, and now I can get what I want, and and so I ordered pineapple on pizza, and I have to say I don't hate it. I'm not with the people. I'm not with the group that says it's wrong, but it's not the same. Actually, I think it probably tastes the same, but I'm no longer. It's no longer what I want the way it used to be. So if you
Well,
enjoy pineapple on pizza, um,
No, no. See,
all you can.
so a
I
couple
mean,
of people there have talked about barbecue pizza. I'm sorry, there's no such thing as barbecue pizza. If it has barbecue sauce on it, it might be a flatbread. It is not pizza. I feel the same way about so-called white pizza. If it doesn't have marinara sauce and mozzarella cheese on it, it's not pizza. That's where
I mean,
I draw a hard
you'd hate 3/4 of the pizzas I eat then.
I draw a hard line there. Pizza has red sauce and white cheese, mild white cheese, and preferably pepperoni at least. But the more meats, the better. So
So you basically only like, you know, the American classic type.
traditional pizza, yes.
I mean, I would say that's American traditional pizza. I doubt it's
I would argue
traditional.
not. I would argue not. But then we're gonna derail the whole chat arguing about pizza. So let's not do
I
that.
mean, that has been known to happen. Yes, there are plenty of tomato-based barbecue sauces out there. I do really like barbecue chicken pizza a lot. So it's one of my go-tos. And I like Greek pizza with feta cheese instead of mozzarella.
Me too.
Flatbreads.
Eraserhead, I think you have met your match for the guardian gatekeeper of the pizza
I am
pizzaness.
absolutely a pizza gatekeeper. I will. Yes.
See, I argue that pepperoni pizza is the Watsy of pizzas.
Oh,
I don't eat pork, so that's part of it, but
that's a horrible, horrible thing to say.
intentionally so. All right. So let's see. We did actually name the entire episode after your game, Jason. So I guess we will start with you. If you want to just give us a breakdown on system, you're writing about it, history. We have plenty of time. So normally I have to like say, you got to like summarize this in 20 minutes, but you got time. So have at.
So at its base, what Amazing Adventures is it is the multi-genre version of the Siege engine, which is what powers Castles and Crusades. So while Castles and Crusades is Troll Lord Games' D&D style fantasy RPG, Amazing Adventures uses the exact same rules and lets you do absolutely anything else. So whether you want to play, I started as a pulp game. I'll jump back into the history for in a minute, but it started as a pulp game. But you can do science fiction with it. You can do horror. You can do post-apocalypse. You can do whatever you want. You can do with Amazing Adventures. And how it started was I had a fan website for Troll Lord Games, for Castles and Crusades back in the day, and I was active on their forums, their original forums. Became friends with a poster on there named Break Daddy, whose real name was also Jason. He was their IT guy, and he had seen some of the house rules that I put up for Castles and Crusades, and I was playing around with some rules for a modern version of the system. He liked them. He got me in touch with Steve, the CEO of Troll Lord. And Steve had just put out, Steve Troll Lord had just put out Star Siege at the time, which was billed as a science fiction version of the Siege engine. But by what we consider the Siege engine now, it really wasn't. It had a major learning curve. There were no classes in it. It was a completely classless system. It was completely skill-based. It was really hard to get better at what you did, honestly. But there was a market there for other genres using the Siege engine. So Steve and I talked, and we decided to put it out as a pulp game. And the reason that I wanted to do it as pulp was because, to my mind, having grown up steeped in the pulps, I said earlier, Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft, Doc Savage, all of those books. To me, the pulps are multi-genre. It's one and the same. The pulps covered everything from sci-fi to fantasy to horror, all of it. What I failed to take into account is common usage, and the fact that when you tell people pulp now, they think of two-fisted action adventure like Indiana Jones. So we put out Amazing Adventures originally in 2000. I submitted it in 2008. I think it sat on Steve's desk for 4 years or so before he actually released it. So it came out around 2012, I think, and it was a pulp role-playing game. And trucked along, selling very well for all those years. Then in about 2018 or 19, I want to say, we did a 5th edition, a compatible version of Amazing Adventures, which just had a single print run, sold very well. At the time, it was our biggest Kickstarter. It's been far surpassed since then. But and then it came around to the time where Troll Lord was doing the reforged versions of Castles and Crusades, where we were getting rid of all the open game content because of the crap that WotC pulled with the open game license and all of that. And we decided it was time to give Amazing Adventures a facelift, bring it more in line. We had been struggling for years to tell people that Amazing Adventures is one big game with Castles and Crusades. They're both two parts of the same greater whole. And doing this new reforged version of Amazing Adventures brings that more in line. It makes it look more like Castles and Crusades. The layout is similar. The presentation is similar. So it just comes across a lot better as part of the same game. If you don't know the Siege engine, which I guess many of people here probably do because you've been talking about it, but it has the core mechanic. Everything is done off of attribute checks. So it's the same 6 attributes that you're familiar with: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. You're going to make an attribute check with a d20, adding your attribute bonus and usually your level. Your attributes are divided between primary and secondary attributes. If it's a primary attribute, you're trying to get a 12 or better. If it's a secondary attribute, you're trying to get an 18 or better. And that's basically the whole system. The entire system works on that. Um, the base difficulty is modified by a challenge level, so from 1 to 10, depending on how hard something is. And even in combat is essentially a strength check, and your challenge level is going to be the AC of your opponent to hit them. So it's a very straightforward, very simple system. I always say that in the difference between the Siege Engine and Dungeons and Dragons is that in D&D, your character sheet tells you what you can do. If it's not on your character sheet, you cannot do it. In Castles and Crusades and Amazing Adventures, if it's not expressly forbidden to you, you're encouraged to give it a try. Just because it's not on your sheet doesn't mean you can't try to climb a wall. You can make a strength check or a dexterity check. It might be unreasonably hard to get it done, but there's always that little chance that you can roll very well and pull it off. And in Amazing Adventures, again, it's multi-genre. So the character classes run the gamut from like the investigator to the pugilist, who is sort of like a modern fisticuffs sort of expansion on the monk, to the arcanist. And our arcanist uses a different magic system than Castles and Crusades. It uses a point-based spell system instead of fire and forget magic. We have a psionicist in there called the mentalist. We have the socialite, who is your support character. There's an acrobat character class. There's a pirate character class. There's a soldier. There's a Zen archer in there. Who's like a martial arts based archer, which is kind of like Hawkeye or Green Arrow character type. We have superpowers. There's a character class called the Gadgeteer or Powered that lets you do anything from making an Iron Man suit of armor to Batman's utility belt to, one of the X-Men. We have one of the unique aspects of Amazing Adventures is we had somebody do a review out there that accused me of not having superpowers in there despite advertising. And that's because what we do for superpowers is basically you will use your power points and you will buy a spell, and then you will reskin that spell as your superpower. So if you wanted to do, say, Cyclops' optic blasts, you might buy Magic Missile and reskin that to be your character's optic blasts. That's how the superpower system works in it. And then we've got vehicle combat rules in there. We've got there's a player agency mechanic, which can be found in the Castles and Crusades Castle Keeper's Guide, but we made it core, and it's called Fate Points. And basically, they let you modify die rolls. They let you do some minor dramatic editing of scenes. Your character needs a certain tool, and they happen to find a dead guard who has the keys that they need. Whatever. Little things like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's Castles, or that's Amazing Adventures in a nutshell. I hope that wasn't too confusing.
I feel like there should be jokes there I can make, but unfortunately I can't think of them off the top of my head. Lots of positive things in the chat. Greg was saying that he'd already decided he was going to get into Castles and Crusades, and now he's going to pick up Amazing Adventures as well.
Awesome.
There was a comment back here that I was going to make a note of, and unfortunately I think it got drowned out. Oh, yes. Hunter was saying that he loved the Monster Compendium and wished he could still get it as a physical book.
Yeah, it's out of print, but we are giving away the PDF. You can get the PDF for free. And Trollord actually has the old printing, the old reforged printing of Amazing Adventures. You can get the core rulebook for free as a PDF on their store. That's just if you like it, play it. If you like it, come and buy the latest version, which has been expanded and reformatted and all of that good stuff. As far as the monsters, the manual of monsters, which actually I have right here. That's the book he's talking about. Oh, you can't see it because I have there.
Shiny.
About.
That's a very nice book.
We are working on, and it's not in the pipeline yet because Trollord has so much going on right now. We are working on a new monster book called Codex Monstorum, which is going to be vastly expanded. It's going to have dozens of cryptids and dinosaurs and horror movie monsters and Lovecraftian horror, more Lovecraftian horrors that are already in that one, and all kinds of good stuff. That's down the pike a little ways because right now Troll Lord is working on. We have the Barsoom license for the John Carter of Mars books, and we are working on all of the Gary Gygax, the Castle Zagig stuff. So that all has to kind of get moving before we can dive into the next phase of Amazing Adventures. We are doing this is Amazing Adventures, a May in capital letters. It's our month of celebration of Amazing Adventures. We just released a new trilogy of adventures for it called Rings of the Red God, which completes our Red God trilogy, which started with Shadows and then went to Rise and then Rings of the Red God. And that gives you basically a 9-part campaign centered around the Red God Orndul from Aird, who is trying to come to Earth. So we just released that. We have a couple more books that we're hoping to get out by the end of the month. I need to get really moving on them. I was kind of buried in a Codex Exaltum for a long time, which is a book on angels that's going to be coming out pretty soon. But I have a fiction book that's going to be coming out for Amazing Adventures, and we have our first genre book is going to be The Brotherhood of William St. John, which is sort of like a meta setting book. The Brotherhood of William St. John are kind of like iconic NPC characters that are spread through the fiction, and they can be dumped into just about any campaign in any time period.
This sounds like it has lots of lore to it. It's one of those people.
Yes, no. There's no meta plot in Amazing Adventures, and there's no core setting. Everything that I put out for Amazing Adventures is designed to be dropped into whatever setting you want to run, your house campaign setting. We're deliberately avoiding meta plot and that type of like established setting because it's multi-genre. We want you to be able to do whatever you want with it. Mm-hmm. So the Brotherhood of William St. John does have some setting elements, but they're setting elements that are built to enhance whatever game you're doing, not say this is the plot and world that you're locked into, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not like Warhammer, which has a ton of books that and a very specific. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
David Hatt wants to know if you can Lulu the old book.
No, it's not print on demand anywhere. And again, it's. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go ahead and use the PDF to Lulu it yourself. I would never say that. It is not available through Troll Lord on via print on demand in any way. Right now, we're saying to people that the Castles and Crusades Monsters and Treasure book serves very well as a monster book for Amazing Adventures. All of the stats are exactly the same, 100% compatible. So if you want an Aboleth in your game, a psychic Cthulhuid horror, just drop the Aboleth from Monsters and Treasure into your Amazing Adventures game. It's got skeletons, it's got vampires, it's got werewolves, it's got mummies, it's got, so Monsters and Treasure works very well in the meantime as a stopgap until we get the Codex Monstorum out.
Yeah, I think a very large chunk of my chat shares my love of actual physical put your hands on it media.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I do. Yeah.
I was doing a quick check of eBay to see whether or not you can actually get the book. And unfortunately, there are
the Adventure Manual of Monsters. It's called.
Unfortunately, eBay wants to drag up 40 million things that have those 3 words in it. So yeah. I'll have to look later.
It does show up every once in a while on there.
I suspect it's one of those books that is, if people have it, they hang on to it. Mm-hmm. I know several of Tom's books are the same way. Like you can't ever find some of his GURPS books because the people who have them are not going to get rid of them.
Right.
They will be buried with them. Any other questions from the chat, or Tom, do you have any questions for Jason?
Well, no, I can't say that I do.
Have you played Amazing Adventures? I know that A
No,
lot
I
of
have.
a lot of your gaming kind of got put on the wayside when you got into teaching and writing and not living in this country.
Yes, it did, and I'm afraid I have not played Amazing Adventures.
There's the player's handbook
Sounds fantastic.
for Amazing Adventures.
That is a
The
great. Oh, hang on a second. I have to blow you back up again because I got to
uh,
look at that. I got to look at that closer.
so there's the player's handbook for it. If I can get it, there we go. It's
It
not.
it is shiny. Rachel is right. It's a very shiny cover.
Yeah,
That is a great cover, though.
and that is the Chronicle Keeper's Guide for it. There. And
Ah,
then the one really cool thing. Let me pull this down here real quick. We have a GM screen for it, and the GM screen, the two covers from the Player's Handbook and the Chronicle Keeper's Guide, they go together to form one big picture. So
nice.
you can see that's. I can't really see because I'm trying to look over the thing, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's
So yeah,
that is very cool. Um, Kadath wants to know if you are selling books at the UK Games Expo.
I have no idea. I won't be there because I have no real reasonable way to get to the UK. I wish I did because
Wouldn't it be nice if you could just use that as a business expense, right?
it would be amazing. But unfortunately, I have a day job that I have to work. I wish I didn't. I wish every day that I didn't. Um, but and I'm also an Anglophile, so I would. Yeah, I would. Man, I'd love to go to the UK someday. That's on my bucket list. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I believe, and maybe Chuck can answer
Uh,
this in the chat. He might know if we're.
yeah,
I think we're in distribution in Europe, so we might have representatives there. I don't know.
yeah. He said the distributor in the UK has a massive booth there with all their stuff.
Ah, there we go. Okay, good. So yes, they will be selling it there.
David Hatt wanted to know who did the cover art.
Jason Walton did it. He is an absolutely amazing artist. He also did the cover for the 5th edition version of Amazing Adventures when we did it. And he just takes, like, Steve asks me what I want for the cover, and I throw out a bunch of like random, completely disconnected ideas, and then Jason Walton comes back and turns it into that. I mean, I don't know how he does it. He's incredible.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I cannot draw a straight line, so I am always in absolute awe of people who can not only draw straight lines but make them look like that.
Right. Yeah, I often say to people, I wish I'd been an artist instead of a writer.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm interested in that statement.
Um, I feel like it's easier to have lucrative output once you get established as an artist. It's easier to have more lucrative output than it is as a writer. Which is not to belittle artists in any way. Obviously, I can't do it. If I could, I would. I admire graphic and visual artists more than I have words to say. But I just feel like I don't know. I see what some of the good artists out there do and the way they put their material out there, and it's their volume of production is so much greater than what I can do as a writer. Um, and so it's just from a practical standpoint, and also from an aesthetic standpoint, I just really envy their ability to take dreams and put them into a visual representation on paper. I like to paint with words, but it's not the same. So
Rachel says somebody needs to tell her the secret. As someone who still plays AD&D Second Edition, how easy or hard is it to roleplay this, and is there a steep learning curve?
I will answer that by saying you can actually use every single one of your AD&D Second Edition books with Castles and Crusades just by flipping the armor class and making it high instead of low. It's that compatible. I mean, it's the learning curve is going to be 5 minutes at best. Castles and Crusades was built. Gary Gygax actually was involved. He didn't do any of the actual writing, but he was directly involved as a consultant, as a sounding board um, during the original production of Castles and Crusades. He once called it on their old message forums before he passed. Gary once called it the spiritual successor to his D&D second edition. Um, so yeah, if you play OD&D, basic D&D, whether it's BX or BECMI, first edition AD&D or second edition AD&D, Castles and Crusades is just going to be a natural slide right into you. It'll play like a new edition of the same game.
My own little addition to that. For those of you who've never seen him, there's a YouTube channel called Professor DM. I think the channel is I don't know if the channel is Deathbringer or if that's just his little icon. I
I
don't pay
think
enough
that's the
attention to these
channel.
things.
Yeah, I think that's the channel.
So he did a video not that long ago on the top 5 like most old school Renaissance games, and Castle and Crusade won as being the closest to the spirit of OSR games on the list. So yeah, very, very, very much right there.
Yeah. Yep, and like I said, you can pull any of your old You can even use the old D&D monstrous manual or the binders, the monstrous compendium binders. All you need to do is flip the AC so that it's high and low, and decide whether your monsters have physical or mental primes, which is something that will come across as you learn the rules. But it's really fast and really easy, so much so that conversion can be done on the fly while you're running.
That's good because I think most of my GMing is on the fly these days. I don't have time to actually do prep. So I do want to say, for those who have not listened to this lecture, Troll Lord Games is currently my, what's the word I'm looking for? I am not familiar enough with the actual games to say that I am obsessed with them, but as a company, I am so impressed with like everything they do. When people were worrying about costs on games, they basically released a note that said, "Yep, we do everything in-house pretty much. So, we're good.
The
Don't worry about it."
hardcovers aren't done in-house, but they are done in the United States by a printer that sources their paper and materials. So everything is done domestically. There won't be any tariff issues.
Yeah, that was what I meant by in-house. Sorry.
They do,
Wasn't it?
we do most of our soft covers are done in-house on the printer, actually at Troll Lord Games. So we do our own soft covers. For now, we have a domestic printer that handles the hard covers. I think Steve is looking into options to bring those in-house too, but I could be wrong about that.
And I think I had heard too that there were several companies, that they sort of like keep in business because they want to help support other small businesses as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So Troll Lord is actually a subsidiary of a company called Chenault and Gray Publishing, and that's their print shop, and they do print jobs for other small game companies and other various small companies.
mhm.
Troll Lord is their primary interest, but yeah, they have the Ernie Gygax put out his the hobby shop dungeon, the Marmorial Tomb. Troll Lord actually stepped in when they were unable to fulfill that Kickstarter. Troll Lord stepped in and made it happen for them. So
They also are, for my understanding, they are also put their money where their mouth is when it comes to supporting veterans, which having several friends who are, I also appreciate.
Troll Lord
Um,
is actually run by vets. Steve and Davis are both military veterans, so they take that very seriously. All military veterans get a 50% discount. All you got to do is reach out and by email and talk to them, and they'll get you set up with your code. Yeah, that's that. It's they also support. We also support school programs, donating Castles and Crusades to like school gaming clubs and school libraries and things like that. We're very big on supporting schools and getting gaming into schools.
Yeah, the first time Castles and Crusades was on this channel was actually because a veteran had discovered it quite by accident and picked it up because of the discount and absolutely loved it because it was so much like AD&D, which
Yeah.
you can't get the books for anymore unless you're willing to shell out hundreds of dollars. So
And it's worth noting too that Trollord is the only company I know of. We're the only company I know of out there that uh, gives away complete versions of our games. You can go onto their store, and now they're older printings, but they're complete. You can get the Castles and Crusades Player's Handbook, Castles and Crusades Monsters and Treasure, Amazing Adventures, and the Amazing Adventures Manual of Monsters in PDF for free. No strings attached. Just go to the store, download it, play the game, and if you like it, hopefully you'll buy the latest version.
if it weren't for the fact that I tend to like the old version so much better of everything. But I do like physical media, so
Well,
I like my books.
it's also worth saying though that we don't do editions of our games. We do new printings. So Steve runs it at every con they go to. Steve runs these huge, like 20, 25 player games, which are insane. I got to play in one once. It was crazy. I don't know how he does it, but
Wow.
I've I've walked into those games and you will see people with the first printing of Castles and Crusades from 2004 sitting right next to people with the 10th printing of Castles and Crusades, and they're all playing at the same table with characters that they made from their books, and there's no problems whatsoever. So the newest version, even though it's had all the OGL removed, some of the spells have been renamed, things like that, but it's still 100% the same game that it was in 2004. We expand it sometimes to add additional options. We incorporate errata, like fix mistakes, but it doesn't. The game doesn't change. It's the same game that it was when it first came out.
The other thing that strikes me is the fact that everyone I've talked to who has worked with or for Troll Lord games absolutely raves about the company. There are so many other companies out there that people are like either or yeah, I wouldn't work for them again if unless I absolutely had to.
Yeah,
Uh, Everybody really seems to, and I notice you're even advertising on the shirt.
yeah. I'm wearing my Castles and Crusades T-shirt. One of them. I have many. Yeah, I mean, I always tell people like, of course, I'm a an employee of Troller Games, but I don't push Troller Games because I work for them. I work for them because I would push them anyways. Um, Steve has become not only a very good friend but a mentor to me in the gaming industry. I've learned so much from him over the past 12 years, no 17 years. Jeez, 17 years or so. Um, yeah, I mean I've learned so much from him over that time, and he's just a great guy. Davis, his brother, who also helps run the company, is a great guy. Everybody, the entire team. There's not a single person at Troller Games that I don't love as a member of my own family. I mean, they're just phenomenal people.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and they treat everybody. We all try to treat everybody well, like a human being. We don't always succeed. Sometimes you have bad days and you say something that you shouldn't say to somebody, you know. But you're human, and you know mistakes happen. But we all try to treat everybody like they deserve to be treated. We value our fans. Our fans are the most important thing because where would we be without them? So, yeah, I try to be accessible as much as I can on my part, and I know that Chuck does, and Steve does, and you know everybody at Troller does their best to be accessible and there when somebody has a question or needs help or whatever. So,
I'm uh, I'm impressed by the family metaphor because most families have that one person they can't stand. Yeah, ever since the more I look into the company, the more I find myself going, man, I wonder if they need an editor.
we actually we used to take so much guff from people because of the editing mistakes in some of our older books, which which always bothered me a little bit because I always felt like D&D had way more editing issues than we did, and they never took heat for it. But
Almost
That's
every first
nice.
edition I've ever read has editing
That's neither here
errors.
nor there. But we actually have we have a couple in-house editors now that Steve has hired on full time, and they've made a huge difference in our production values. So
Well, if one of them ever becomes insane and decides to retire, like, just let me know. All right, and I do want to give you a couple of minutes too. You also have your own business as well, correct? Aside from Troll Lord Games.
I do, yeah. I mean, I'll do it real quick because I want to focus on Amazing Adventures because that's what we're here for.
Yep.
But I have my own company called Elf Lair Games, and we have three games: Night Shift, Veterans of the Supernatural Wars, which is a modern urban fantasy / horror game. We have Wasted Lands, The Dreaming Age, which is a fantasy swords and sorcery style fantasy game, and then we have 13 Parsecs, which is a science fiction game. All of them are toolkit games. The system is very informed by OD&D and AD&D. It's its own system, but it has three checks. You'll have an attribute check, which is a D20 plus your attribute bonuses, and you're trying to get a 20 or better. That's for universal checks. Anything that has to do specifically with your character class is going to be a percentile check. That includes magic and casting spells. And then there's the rule of two, which is for the GM. And anytime the GM needs to do something that they don't maybe have a rule handy for, or they're not sure how to adjudicate it, they pick a die, roll it, and look for a one or a two. And on a one or a two, something happens. So that's the system for it. And we have modern fantasy and sci-fi. And that's in a nutshell. That's my company, Elf Lair Games. So I would love to come back on at some point and talk about that those work specifically, but
Absolutely. Sounds very rules light.
it's designed to be extremely rules light, extremely intuitive. The reason I use the three mechanics is because it gives you an instant benchmark of what's going on at the table at any given time. It cuts down on what's she rolling. Can I roll too? Because if she's rolling percentile dice, you know that it's something to do with her character class. Whereas if it's a D20 roll, it's an attribute check. So
Does Amazing Adventures do ship to ship combat?
are you talking about starships or are you talking about naval ships?
That was going to be my exact question. I was like, are we
Um,
talking pirate combat or are we talking space?
Star Siege is going to be making a comeback. We have a version of it up for purchase on the website now in PDF, but it's kind of not quite complete. It was kind of as complete as we could get it at the time preview. But Star Siege, our science fiction game, is coming back, and I have developed full starship dogfighting rules as well as rules for crewed ships, where everybody gets to play a part in their in the ship to ship combat, basically by manning stations in the ship. So that will be coming at some point down the line. I know Steve would like to get it done sooner rather than later, so I think that'll probably be coming up pretty soon on my docket. As far as naval vessels go, we are kicking around. We haven't started actively developing it yet, but we are kicking around a high age of piracy supplement, which will be for Castles and Crusades and Amazing Adventures.
I'm sold.
And that's going to have ship to ship combat rules, which will play very nicely with the starship combat rules that I'm writing for Star Siege. So you won't have a learning curve going from one to the other.
I love me a good pirate game.
So
Is it accurate to say that Castles and Crusade values seem scaled a bit higher than typical DCs in other D20 OSR games?
I don't know if that's quite accurate. Characters, as they level in Castles and Crusades, tend to add higher bonuses because you're always except in combat. But they tend to add higher bonuses because you're always adding your level to your check. But I think at low levels, it's pretty much the same because your challenge level, which is what modifies your challenge base. Your challenge base is the 12 or 18 that I talked about earlier. To that challenge base, you're going to add a challenge level, which is usually going to be 1 to 10 based on how tough the task is. I guess if you're looking at non-primes where you're starting at an 18, then yeah, it's going to look like it goes higher. But if you look at primes, they started at 12, which is much lower. Um, so I think it averages out. I mean, if you think about the average DC in fifth edition being probably around 15 by low and mid level, um, I think CNC probably averages out to a similar curve, but I'm not a mathematician and I have not run the statistics. So that's just my gut feeling.
Okay. Any other questions from the chat or from Tom? I think all the questions I had have been answered, so. Okay. Thank you very much, Jason. So, Tom, one of the reasons that I really wanted you to come on today is that by sheer coincidence, like your old school Shadowrun stuff has come up in conversation. Like, not you specifically, but like people who don't know you have like commented on your books or they've showed up on my timelines or and last time you were on we talked a lot about Ars Magica and then some cyberpunk. But of course my great love is your Shadowrun stuff. So I wondered if we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is so good to hear. I am delighted that people are enjoying it.
The latest one was somebody in the UK who from like an old school gaming Facebook site who had a whole bunch of your stuff and other like first and second edition. I think mostly first edition
I was
books.
just going to say, which editions of Shadowrun did you work on? Because I'm a Shadowrun fan, but we kind of stopped around fourth because we didn't like the way it felt like they went backwards with fifth and sixth.
I,
Second edition was the best. Some of the first.
I like fourth personally, and I know I'm in the minority on that. I know a lot of Shadowrun fans don't like fourth, but
well, I think a Shadowrun Facebook group I belong to, an old school Shadowrun Facebook I belong to, makes the cutoff line at third.
mm.
So they would say that you are not old school, but you may still be older school than the new school.
I enjoyed third edition immensely. I still have all my third edition books over here. I thought fourth edition fixed a lot of the problems I had with the system in third. But again, I know I'm in the minority. I think that's one of the least popular editions among fans of the game. But yeah, but I was just really curious as to which editions you worked on.
I, I I play mostly second edition these days, and the truth is, I my published Shadowrun adventures, I forget which side of the line they fell on. I think they might have been. Do you know, Sherry? Did you know Go?
I believe that they are very late first edition. But most people like transfer them into second edition.
I
What at least at the tables I was at. So
I believe the same.
Okay, cool.
yeah, so I was actually just looking at Legatus's comment. Is it a good system to introduce new players to role playing? So I did get introduced to D&D and AD&D quite early, but Shadowrun is what taught me that there were other games besides D&D and that in fact many of them were better.
I think if I were going to take that question, I would say that Shadowrun is somewhat complicated. So there might be a little bit more of a learning curve, but at the same time, all role playing games are complicated. So if I enjoyed the Shadowrun universe, I wouldn't hold back from using it as a first game.
See, that's interesting. I actually find when it comes to character generation, I find the second edition Shadowrun much easier than the older D&D. And of course, I don't play the newer stuff because I don't like it. But
Yeah, I'm not. I was. It's really more like decking that is complicated, and magic can be. I mean,
Magic.
that's true.
casting
Yeah.
spells is
Spell
okay.
Drain is what always threw me for a loop in the older editions of Shadowrun. Um, I had such a hard time grasping how it worked.
All the stuff with astral space.
The drain when you cast a spell, it was so confusing to me in the older editions. Now, Again, I was much younger when I tried to play it, so I could go back now and look at it and say, "Oh, I don't understand why I ever had a problem with this." But it's been a while. But I know that's what I talk about when I say fourth edition fixed a lot of the problems I had. Is that it made spell drain and decking really straightforward and easy to understand. So
That's a good point about the decking. Most of the time there were no deckers because, like, when they're in doing the whole computer hacking stuff, it kind of leaves the rest of the team hanging, and so most of the time, they GMs were just kind of avoiding deckers
It's
completely. So,
I encourage deckers to be NPCs when I GM,
hmm
or encourage the players not to play deckers, and give, give them NPCs when they need them, and rely heavily on judgment rather than role playing each step through to tell them what the deckers can and can't do.
sorry guys, I just had something come up real quick. I'll be right back. I'm still going to be here. I'm just shutting off my camera for a second.
sure, no problem. Yeah, I think that is. I'm trying to think. There were about 3 people that regularly ran Shadowrun in those editions, and I think they all pretty much had the same take. Um, and I don't think that's uncommon just to Shadowrun. Like, when I play Slay Industries, I don't ever let anyone play Evans because they're just such a mess when compared with uh, pretty much anything else. So I think sometimes, especially in the early games, you always get that one class that it's just easier to not have.
I think you're right. It's not just deckers in Shadowrun, and that is a sensible way to handle it.
Um, but I mean, overall, I'm trying to think. So I've done. I don't know. I mostly liked Phys Adepts. So, um, but yeah, that's possibly true. I don't know. I'm thinking about the character because most people, when they're worrying about whether or not stuff's crunchy, they're talking about the character generation.
Yeah.
And I thought the character generation was actually easier than most D&D stuff. It's like
I
pick
never, I
pick
never
1 through
liked,
5.
I never liked the prioritizing of like prioritize your race or your attributes or whatever the stratification of another thing I liked about fourth edition was that it was just straight point buy. They just here's your points, spend them and go. Um, which I guess a lot of people hated with Shadowrun, but
Sounds very GURPSy.
I mean, there's a lot of games. Unisystem does that straight point buy. There's a lot of games that do straight point buy systems, but yeah, I guess GURPS was probably the first, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong about that, but um,
My brain is now on 90s games, so therefore, um, GURPS is definitely the first one that comes to mind. But yeah, so I looked it up. Your games were definitely first edition for that and third edition for GURPS. And I don't know on Cyberpunk, so
That makes sense.
is GURPS that much older, or did they just churn out a lot of editions really fast?
GURPS has been around since the '80s at least. They've been
Yeah,
around
I
for
would say
a long
GURPS is
time.
maybe both, but GURPS is definitely older than Shadowrun.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. That's all right. I was
yeah.
really
In fact,
horrified.
my all-time favorite AD&D character, I stole his name out of the original. I think the third edition GURPS core book. It was Die Blackthorn. It was one of the sample characters in GURPS, and I stole the name for my half elf uh, thief magic user in AD&D, or not my gray elf. It was a gray elf thief magic user, hence my screen name. So
Um, so you did 3 books for Shadowrun? You have Ivy and
Two.
Chrome. 2? I thought you did 3.
Unless you can remind me of a third one, I did too.
Well, I may be overlapping with Cyberpunk.
I did more with Cyberpunk. I play more Shadowrun, I wrote more Cyberpunk.
I'm trying to remember. So you did Ivy and Chrome, and what was the other one?
Uh, I know the answer. Dark Angel.
Oh, as your GM knew the answer before you did. think you have a fan. Um, is Green War, is that what it's called? Cyberpunk? I can see the cover in my head, and I can't.
Green War is Cyberpunk.
Okay, that's the one that I'm overlapping. That's
Yeah.
the one I always think should be Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Um, did you did you only do 2 on purpose, or
Oh,
because
no,
you
there was nothing special about that. I just, you know, moved on to other things.
um because I remember you. Okay, so in case people have not yet figured this out, I know Tom, outside the screen here. So, um, I it's Shadowrun. I remember you running a lot, so that's why it like sticks in my head and always feels like you should have like written more of it because you run it so well.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I think I enjoy Shadowrun more. I like the fantasy aspect of it, and and but Atlas Games. I worked a lot with Atlas Games. Atlas Games had a Cyberpunk license, so
Hmm.
I wrote what they had a license to publish.
Well, that makes sense. Um, did you have a favorite out of the two?
Well, I remember Ivy and Chrome better, so I guess that must make it my favorite. There's a yeah, I mean, I obviously I am the author of both of them. I have the same proprietorial feelings about both of them. But Ivy and Chrome was the first one I wrote, and um,
I actually,
probably
sorry, go ahead.
and probably is my favorite.
I actually had to look up Dark Angel because I think I have heard the name, but Ivy and Chrome I've seen several copies of, and I'm not sure I have Dark Angel.
There's a well, I think Ivy and Chrome. I for whatever reason I think it's better known. Um, but there's a funny thing about Dark Angel, um, and again I may I'm just gonna tell you, gonna give you my my experience. I may have dates wrong. I may be confused, but basically in Dark Angel, I refer to Earth Dawn, and of course, FASA, the company that produced Shadowrun, came out with an RPG called Earth Dawn, which is set in the Shadowrun universe, and so all that would make sense. The thing that does not make sense about it is that I believe Dark Angel came out before the Earth Dawn game, and I do not think that I had any insider information. I think it's a total coincidence that I wrote, you know, a reference to Earth Dawn um, into a book by a company that would later produce the game Earth Dawn.
Hmm. Um, as your GM wants to know, did you get to work directly with any of the FASA artists or freelancers?
Uh, I mean, I don't remember who I worked with. I mean, I was physically, physically a long way away from the Vasa company, so I was. This was all by mail. None of this electronic stuff then. This was all by physical mail, and I don't remember who my editor was. And I certainly and I never knew who might be, you know, beta reading, commenting on my work. The editor gets it, but maybe the editor shows it to other people. So effectively, no, I didn't. I didn't have a lot of contact with the Shadowrun designers.
I hadn't even considered about the fact that you had to like snail mail all of this stuff back and forth.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, it never occurred to do anything else. I mean, I am happy to say that word processors existed. I wrote them on computer. I wrote on a computer. I didn't have to like type and then but change even the smallest little correction with whiteout. That must have been very time consuming.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking
When
like
I started college, I have done that. When I started college, that was that was state of the art technology.
When I edit now, as much as I complain about the fact that I can't get it on paper and red pen it, what I tend to do is make suggestions and then return things to people so that they can fix what they want to fix, because sometimes they don't like my suggestions. Uh, and I'm just thinking now, if I had to like mail that back and forth every time, you know, they wrote something, I write out the notes, send it back to them, they change it, send it back to me to get re-edited. It would take forever.
Well, this is saying something about our relative ages, because you, I would say that I would say if you never had to do that, I would say that you just barely missed it.
Well, I didn't have to do it because editing is a second career for me, and I spent 20 years doing other things first. So,
That contributes as well.
as your GM said, possibly Tom Dowd editing. His name is on a lot of books from that era. So, just in case that name happens to ring a bell. Question for both of you. Player character sheets, are they available as fillable PDFs? I am guessing that is probably not the case with 1990s. Unless there's a fan version.
Yeah, Amazing Adventures does have a form fillable character sheet. I'm not sure if we have one for Castles and Crusades, but Amazing Adventures does have one that you can download. Yeah.
And I am tending toward the second thing you said. I can't. I don't personally know how to get Shadowrun character sheets, but there is an active Shadowrun community. They create a lot of stuff. I the only question I would have about getting on online early edition Shadowrun sheets is, what's is the copyright situation? What are they allowed to sell you?
Yeah, I know that they do. There's a lot of fan stuff that sometimes will just be given away.
Yeah. Chuck said in the chat that both CNC and Amazing Adventures have form fillable sheets on the site for free. So
there you go. Yeah. So there are second edition character sheets that are form fillable on a site called Nullsheen, and first edition character sheets that are printable. And then Reddit seems to have a whole bunch of Shadowrun first edition options. So, again, free fan stuff. If I had the capability, considering how terrible my players' handwriting is, I would have fillable PDFs for every game I've ever run, because it'd make my life so much easier.
these days when I play, I used to hate technology at the table, but these days when I play, I have an Onyx Books color e-ink tablet, and I keep all of my character sheets on there, and I just use the pen that comes with the tablet to write and erase, and it's been a godsend. I still prefer physical books every day, all day long, but for my character sheets, having them on that e-ink tablet is amazing.
Eraser says, handwriting? Oof. So you said that you did Ivy and Chrome first.
Yes.
And I don't think I have... I have seen many copies of it. I don't think we've ever played it. Have you ever run it?
I have definitely run it. I've run it at conventions. So I have run it. We just never played it.
I just never made that one. What was I going to ask you? Oh, is it good, like, if somebody hasn't played Shadowrun or haven't played the early editions, are one or both of them a better option for a first time run through?
I would be happy to recommend them for a first time run through.
Is one better than the other?
I don't
like.
I can't think of any clear reason why one would be better than the other.
Well, easier was what I was going for, but
yeah, I can't think of any clear reason why they should be. Shadowrun is, I mean, it's not like D&D. There's sort of characters get more powerful as they as you play your character. You can make your character more powerful, but there's no clear level 1, level 2. So
Mhm.
the modules are um, the modules are sort of assuming you know low to moderate level characters all around.
Mhm. Okay, I guess that's what I was trying to ask. I was trying to avoid using the word level because I knew there weren't levels.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It actually, seriously speaking, uh, there is a huge difference between an advanced Shadowrun character and one that you've just created, and so it would make sense to have modules for you know the equivalent of modules for levels. But I don't think I don't think that, I mean, I certainly didn't, and I am not aware of anyone else doing it either.
I'm trying to remember if I ever had a character live that long. It's one of the things about old school, high death rates.
Yes.
We succeeded in the mission most of the time, but I usually managed to like get killed off in the last, few minutes kind of thing. Um any other historical stuff you want to tell us about before we start talking about books?
Well, historic. Not sure off the top of my head. I mean, I mean, I, I like Shadowrun a lot. I'm playing a Shadowrun game right now. I'm happy to talk about Shadowrun.
I'm sort of jealous that you're playing that you play. I have had the hardest time getting anyone to play Shadowrun anymore.
Oh, people, I mean, prefer other systems.
Uh yeah, I think it's just one of those that like a lot of the old school people know, but a lot of my gaming group are not old school people, so
Yeah, I feel like
um
we're in a space right now where it seems like everybody that calls themselves a tabletop gamer plays D&D 5th edition, and that's all they play. And getting people to move out of that can be like pulling teeth, which is why a lot of us are appearing on all these podcasts to say, hey, there's other options out there, and or podcast live streams, I should say. There's other options out there, and a lot of them you might like better. D&D is not the only game out there, not by a long shot. It just happens to be the biggest because Hasbro produces it. You know.
uh interestingly, I currently have 3 different games that are mostly 3 different groups.
Mhm.
And none of them play D&D.
Well, that's great. That's actually great to hear. I've just heard that from so many people that
Oh
I've,
yeah, absolutely.
my groups. I have 2 gaming groups, and we're not playing D&D in either of them either.
But grimdark is kind of the thing these days. People still want fantasy. I think that's what it is that they don't want to play D&D, but they want to play Shadow the Demon Lord, or they want to play Numenera, or they want to play like some other fantasy environment.
Right.
Which is great. I mean, I love both of those games, but I do miss. I think I miss playing sci-fi more than I miss running it, though.
Mhm.
And nobody else runs games except me anymore around here, so I am the forever GM.
I'm lucky to have multiple GMs in both of my groups. Actually, in my Sunday group, we meet weekly and we trade off every other week. We have 2 of us running a game at the same time, and we trade off every other week. And then my Friday group meets bi-weekly, and that's one GM at a time. So
I did. So one of the games I play is online because my brother lives across the country, and it's the only way I get to interact with him. And we did have to skip the game I was running at one point, and so he ran a one shot of Blades in the Dark.
that can be a fun game.
That
Uh,
was great.
with a really good GM, that can be a fun game. I think if you don't have a really good GM, it can be, uh, we'll just say, not as fun.
Well,
uh,
he's a very good GM, so
yeah, I think Blades in the Dark really really requires a great game master to be to realize its full potential as a game.
yeah. So Tom, tell us how you went from role playing games to teaching and then to fantasy novels. It does not seem like what one would consider a normal path of careerhood.
Oh, I think the biggest the biggest direct way that gaming led to academics is that it's writing experience, and so I you can tell me how good my writing is, but it would it was certainly better than it would have been if I'd never written anything, and and so I when going into writing college papers, writing PhD thesis, I had that writing experience, and there are some um, some and I had I could demonstrate that I had writing experience when I was applying for applications to university jobs, etc. I could show that I'd done this, so it was useful. It was useful career wise in that way. And there's the my interests were sort of broadly overlapping. I mean, I studied international politics, and so a lot of history, a lot of politics, and my games tended to have that sort of thing too. And the progression on into fiction was again there's a commonality of interests. The a lot of what I write my novels about is very heavily based on you know world politics, war, um, in spying, international affairs, and so I have some real world background to draw on, and the the freedom that you have when you're writing a novel allows me to explore how I think um, war and strategy and politics work in ways that can be harder to squeeze into um, academic work. So in a lot of ways, I think I think my novels say more interesting things about real world politics than well, I mean, no, I'm proud of my academic books too. I don't want to say that my novels say more than my academic books, but they they do. I do think my novels say things that that someone who is interested in these subjects in real life might 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 be interested in engaging with.
Um, so what I tend to think of when I read your stuff is like the original series of Star Trek was able to say things in a sci-fi setting that would not have necessarily been heard really well if they tried to make it, you know, more obviously real world. Do you think that that also helps, I don't know, soft sell some ideas by putting it in this fantasy setting?
Yeah, I hope so. That's I'm honored that you should say that, and that is definitely what I'm trying for. And I don't. Yeah, I actually I actually I don't even know that I have a lot to add to that because yes, there are ideas that I'm working with that would just not fit the format of an academic piece and they're just easier to explain clearly when you have characters and um, a little the kind of freedom that you have as an author of fiction. And then yes, I suspect that what you're getting at is that Star Trek talked about controversial issues, things like race and sexuality that that were were easier to present in science fiction in 60s and the 70s than they would have been directly. And I yeah, there are by my novels, I don't know that my novels, but I don't feel that my novels should be controversial, because of course I'm right. And I don't, and they may not be controversial in the ways that people think of these days. I mean, I don't, but at the same time, I can think of things that I put in my novels that probably do go over better in fiction than they would if I just said them straight out.
The one that's
And of course,
specific.
there are also things in there that maybe people will agree with in the abstract, um, but they would agree with less if they found out that um, I think that if they found out who in real life I would apply these things to. You know, everyone likes it when you talk about the importance of the rule of law, but no one likes it when you say that the politician you support is violating the rule of law.
The one I specifically was thinking of is I can still remember that the first Star Trek episode I ever saw was Devil in the Dark.
Good
Um,
episode.
yeah. And the reason I can remember it so clearly is that it was the first time any television show or anyone, period, had ever suggested that something could be strange and ugly and not be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember in your first book when you talk about learning what a witch is, and that a witch is, I'm trying to remember the exact phrasing in the book. A witch is someone who scares people,
Huh.
and that you can be a witch, without being wrong. And I had that kind of still same, little like, oh, what a great way to put that.
Well, I'm so happy those lines worked for you, and yes, I hope that that message gets across.
There are not a lot of adult men that can write, female children in a way that really feels like I remember a female feeling as a female child. So
Well, I'm very honored you should say that, and I also have to say, you commented on when I was originally writing the book. You gave me some feedback on my manuscript, and you gave me some very good feedback. I still think about some of your points sometimes. And in fact, there are some of your feedback I acted on, and the published book is better for it. And and you gave me I mean, I did. It's not that I did what you suggested, but I could have gone farther. And with a particular thing, I wish I had gone farther. I might, rather than beat around the bush, I'll say what it is. Again, speaking of you know when of how to handle controversial issues in real life, um, you 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 pointed out that you pointed out certain areas in which maybe what I was saying about real life was not going so well, and the and the 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 hostile foreign country in my world is called Juan, and that you know that that's fine. I mean, the book. I mean, books are out there. That's just the word they use for this country. But I had originally had the concept of this country. I had like a whole background based on it. Basic, uh, I was originally sort of modeling one on a group of on nomadic tribes that are believed to have invaded sort of Greece, Greece, southern Europe, um, in prehistoric times. And I brought them forward to a more advanced technological period, and I was working with them, and and these tribes. I mean, they were originally the original tribes were literally a Caucasian people, and also they were white, and the word "wan" in English can mean pale, and so the reference in the book, the original idea was that these were pale invaders that came down from the north, and I regret doing that now because I was not trying to get into modern real life racial politics.
I think when you wrote it, though, it was less of a thing than it is now.
Yeah, when you know when I came up with the idea, it was much less of a thing than it is now. When I was getting to the stage of publishing it, was 2019, so it was in full bloom, and
I read it much earlier than that,
anyway,
though.
anyway, it's not a big deal. But the point is, the point I'm making is that you pointed out that if you're not if you're not trying to talk about racial politics, don't talk about racial politics. And on that, and I mostly corrected that. But the name of the country is one thing um, that I did not change, and just to avoid any confusion, maybe should have.
I mainly remember talking about the meat eating
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, and that is a valid point. That the main character does not eat meat, and at the same time, and I do, I am delighted if that starts a conversation. But at the same time, it's not the book is not propaganda, or at least if it is propaganda, that's not the focus of it.
I think my original point in the book, though, was that originally you didn't have her eating meat before she decided not to eat meat.
Yeah,
And it seemed,
that may be as well.
but anyway, now that we've rambled about, versions of the book that that no one will ever see. um, I do remember recently. This was one of those things that I was saying earlier. Kept popping up. I saw a review of GURPS Egypt, and somebody reviewed it and said, as a scholar in this area, uh, this is the most accurate, best researched game book I've ever seen.
Well, that's very good to hear. After what we were talking about a second ago, I was afraid you were going to say you saw a review and it was someone that said, this is cultural appropriation. We got to get that guy.
Oh, no. No, I was just talking about the connections between your scholarly pursuits and your writing.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm obviously very happy that someone who specializes in that area liked what I did.
and you wrote GURPS China and then went on to write a bunch of nonfiction stuff on China, correct?
That is correct.
Because I'm a terrible person and the nonfiction stuff is what I haven't read. Mainly because I suspect I wouldn't understand any of it.
I'm sure you would, but there's a lot to read.
So where do you go from here? Your series is done, correct?
Yes.
And you have an offshoot book that's done.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, and again, if anyone, if any, I'm showing you book one of the series, The Witches of Craddock Dale. I don't know how well it.
Come on, there we go.
And this is the offshoot book, The People versus Abigail Bennett. This is a fantasy legal thriller. It's about the main character in this book. Her mother starts out as a farm wife, and in the course of the Mara of the League series, Mara's mother, gets enough money to spend a few years studying, and becomes a lawyer, and sort of reinvents herself that way. That's a minor theme in the Mara of the League books, but it does happen. And this book moves forward to after her legal career when she's retiring. She's 78, and at that point, first of all, her country is overrun, so they're under enemy occupation, and they're and local local people who side with the invaders are responsible for governing the town, and the local people grab a couple of teenagers and accuse them of a crime, and are ready to make an example of them. And at that point, Abigail, retiring lawyer, comes out of retirement to say, you can't you can't do this without a fair trial, and so she tries to get justice for the accused, and in the process, sort of speaking of the messages in these books, in the process, she has to make the case of why it's important to have fair trials, and so that's what this book is about. And then and this book, you can read this book by itself. This is a standalone book, or you can read it as a follow up to the Mara series. And what I'm doing now, and it is still set in the same fantasy world, but it's new characters. It's a new setting, and the book's title is Sleep of Reason, and will remember an earlier version of this as well. The theme of Sleep of Reason is it's a group of graduate students have been studying for years with one professor that they deeply admire, and they're getting ready to take a final examination in which if you fail, you die. So it's a big deal, but
that would get me to study.
But they have this teacher that they really trust, that they believe they can get through it with him, and he dies, and they get a new teacher, and at the very last minute they find out the new teacher has changed this test. You still die if you fail it, but everything they've studied has changed. I mean, so now they have to figure out, what are they going to do? Are they gonna take the test and take the risk? Are they well, some of them think, that's, it sucks, but that's their only option. Others think, no, this isn't fair. We need to get this changed. We should be allowed to take the test we study for. So that's the challenge the students face, and they're a group of friends, and they all have to decide, do we do this together? Do some of us go off and do it? So there's this group of students faced with this challenge. The book is follows their struggles with the university, and their and how their friendships develop or break up as they each make their own choices with this. That's the central plot of this book. Now there is actually I could stop there, but Sleep of Reason is actually two stories in one, and there is a separate plot which is going on at the same time about a young woman who is working as a gardener at the university, and her grandmother was a witch, and so again, sort of shades of the witches of Craddock Dale. Her grandmother was a witch, and she gets pushed into a situation where she's mad, and she makes the breakthrough of how to perform witchcraft that works. And this is a world virtually, well, people's attitudes toward magic in this world are similar to people's attitudes in real life. There are people that hunt witches. There are people that believe in magic, but educated people at the university do not. So this. If she can do magic, if she can convince people that she's doing magic that works, that's going to have some people, trying to get her killed, but it's also going to be, in theory, a huge scientific discovery. And to twist it a little more for her, just when she finally is confident that this wasn't just a coincidence, this is actually happening. I actually kind of know how to. I kind of know how to do this. Um, she a creature from her dreams gets out into the real world and kills somebody. And so now now she has to decide. Who does she dare tell about this? Who will believe her if she tells them about this? Um, what is she? What is she going to do about this creature? Um, and so she's in this situation, and her story turns out to overlap with the student's story. So by the end of the book, um, they're going to come together for what I hope will be an exciting finale.
So this is quite a lot more fanciful than the Mar of the League.
Well,
Because Mar of the League mentions witches, but there's never any actual like doing of magic, at least not that I have read so far. But like I said, I'm behind.
I mean, first of all, yes, you're right. There is in Mara of the League, there is never any reason to believe that magic is real. Again, if you go back, if you go in detail, you will see where I changed my. You will see my writing process in action there, because there is because when I originally had the idea for Mara of the League, there was going to be magic in it. What I originally wanted to do was I wanted. Well, first of all, I wrote Sleep of Reason. I wrote a draft of Sleep of Reason first. Mara of the League was always going to be set in the same world. My original draft of Sleep of Reason had a lot of magic in it, and so I started Mara of the League with the thought that that magic was real in this world, and I also wrote Mara of the League wanting to write a sort of a fantasy take on the Cold War. And I thought that to do that, I would need to have a magical equivalent of nuclear weapons. And as I was writing it, I, my ideas came together and got better and better, and I started to see that actually magical nuclear weapons were not necessary. I could write the story I wanted to write without anything supernatural at all. And in fact, I liked that more realistic feel. And so the end result is there is one line in The Witches of Crannock Dale where there's a mention of somebody seeing see, visiting a foreign country and seeing mysterious lights that could only be magic, lights used for like reading. In this other country, they have magical reading lights, but you have to read very carefully to see that. And that actually, I have since then. I mean, I will admit that I filled this in after I wrote it, but the canonical explanation now is that gaslights have been invented in this other country, which in real life, gaslights appeared in the 1700s. So, in other words, it's not. It's probably a little It's more technologically advanced than most of the things in these books, but it's not. It's not crazy. You can imagine a world where people at this technological level would have figured it out. Now, getting back to Sleep of Reason, as I mean, there's definitely there's definitely more fantasy in Sleep of Reason than there was in Mara of the League, but maybe not as much more as it sounded like in this conversation. Mm-hmm. For most of Sleep of Reason will be 2 books. For most of book 1, Elena herself is not sure whether the magic is real, and no one else thinks the magic is real. Even as even as the magic becomes realer, I make my best effort to deal with it seriously. As if to think about how would people react to it's a problem in this world in the same way that I'm probably babbling here. What I'm really trying to say is that Elena talks with people who um, have similar scientific attitudes to what we would have in real life, and I am within while keeping it simple enough to be fun in the book. Um, I am raising issues about what science knows, and things like consciousness that I hope will have will have some substance to them. Um, so if you like the realism of the Mara of the League series, um, you will find realism in Sleep of Reason too. Even though there are some things in Sleep of Reason that you may in the end decide couldn't work in real life. Um, I do my best to. Well, I guess the way of putting it is it's sort of the fantasy equivalent of hard science fiction. You read hard science fiction, and no, we don't have colonies on Mars in real life, but the book makes an effort to to deal with the realities of what colonies on Mars would be like.
It
Um,
seems a little bit like Dana Scully in the X-Files, who
yeah,
no matter what she sees, keeps trying to find ways to explain it away,
yeah,
no matter how.
there are definite. Yes, that I like that.
Um, I had another question for you, and I've forgotten what it was. Legatus did have a question though. As an independent creator, uh, did you or do you get a lot of crowdfunding, or are you attached to a firm who sponsor? Basically, I think they're asking how you can manage to afford to write books.
Well, good question. Uh, I I mean my novels. The only funding I get for my novels is people buying them, and most most of my gaming writing I did for other companies, so I get paid royalties by the publisher, and the same with my academic writing.
And some of those are still in print, right? I think we discussed that last time, that you could
Yeah,
still buy copies of several of them. Yeah.
yeah, and I still get royalties from several of them. Well, I mean, I guess the point is they're yeah. Enough said. It's not just that you can buy used copies. You can buy them. You can buy new copies.
Um. So basically, like once you hit a certain point, your writing kind of pays for itself. Is that?
Yeah,
I think we hear all these stories about how Stephen King was working security overnights in a laundromat when he wrote his first book, and so there's always this like how how you support you, and crowdfunding is a huge thing these days too. There's so many authors that the book is already they can support themselves in the time it takes to write the book because they've been crowdfunded to write the book.
yeah, and that's fantastic. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the person that asked the question does that, has experience with that. It's a great thing to do. I just haven't done it.
Action Tactics says Mara of the League reviews are pretty great.
I'm
Just
happy to hear that.
looking around and reading them.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, I know what I was thinking. Your first story sounded like a very literal version of the Dead Poets Society.
Well, uh,
Like
I mean,
the teacher that they really like, except in this case, it's literally a Dead Poets Society if they don't make it through.
yeah, that there is definitely I definitely see that. I mean, another cop. I don't know. I don't know if everybody talks about this or just people on writers' Twitter, but when you submit a book to an editor or an agent, they want you to give what they call comps, which means you need to say my book is like Dead Poets Society, or you need to show successful published recent books that you're copying. Not supposed to be copying them, but you're enough like them so that if that book was successful, your book will be successful too. Well, another book that I would not mind being comped to is The Secret History, which is I don't know if I don't know if everybody knows that. Basically, it's set in the real world, and it's also about a group of college students with a close relationship with a, a, a professor who's a strong personality and may have there may be some sketchy things about him. And if the only I mean, in The Secret History, the only thing sketchier than the professor is the students themselves. And it's about like they get deeper and deeper into bad behavior. And I mean, I don't want to give spoilers for that. But it is
I'm
this,
I'm adding that one to my reading list too.
no, it's by Donna Tartt. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Um, we'll see if you do too. I guess what I'm saying is I enjoyed it. Personally, I'm not saying it's my favorite book of all time, but it was popular, and it I wanted to say spawned, but that sounds. I mean, when you spawn something, that sounds bad, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It inspired. Um, the the Secret History inspired a online cultural movement called Dark Academia, and I would be very happy if the people that are into dark academia discovered Sleep of Reason. And I think I can say with I think I can say that Sleep of Reason strikes notes that dark academia would pick up on. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Sleep of Reason is really dark academia. Not that it's not gruesome. I mean, it's not that there are it's not Stephen King. Speaking of Stephen King, but what it is it's first of all, dark academia. One of the, as I understand it, one of the defining features of dark academia is that it's about you know
Tom,
well,
I don't mean to cut you off, but that sounds like it's going to go on a ways, and it's 10 minutes of 8. So I don't want you to miss a chance to like actually push your websites and if you have any events or anything.
okay. Um,
I am going to tell the chat that Tom is in the Discord. So if you have future questions for him about Dark Academia or his books, you should ask him there.
be delighted.
Um, okay, so we are down to 10 minutes of 8. I want to make sure everyone has a chance to plug their stuff. If you have social media, if you have events coming up, if you have books coming out, if you have Kickstarters, if you have Jason, if you want to re-talk about your sale, you have about 5 minutes apiece. So, Jason, why don't we start with you?
I'm not sure what you mean about our sale.
You
You
said
mean our Amazing Adventures month? Yeah,
yes.
it's just May. We highlight everything to do with Amazing Adventures. And we did just come out with the new third part of our Red God trilogy this month, and hopefully we're going to get a couple other books out as the month goes on. Yeah, Amazing Adventures is reforged. It's been completely revamped and the layout is all new. All the open game content has been removed, so we are completely divorced from anything to do with any other company now. And it's a really I love this game. Trollord was the company that gave me the first opportunity ever to write a core game. I had over a decade of experience writing supplements and adventures and things like that for other people, and the chance to write a full role playing game, which ended up being Amazing Adventures, was a dream come true for me. And so this game is always going to be my baby, and I love it to death. I'm very proud of it. I think I've had very few negative comments, and most of those are things like, "You didn't put my favorite firearm in the firearms table." Um, it's selling very, very well right now. I think we're coming up pretty soon on yet another printing of the book. Um, and like Chuck just said, July and August, we're going to be doing sales and new releases for both games coming up, and even a mini con. Um, I think, Chuck, can you tell us, is Troll Lord still going to Gen Con this year? If so, I know I was going to be there with them on that. Um, my own company can be found at elflair.com. Amazing Adventures can be found at trolllord.com. We also have Twitch. We also have a Twitch channel. We also have Facebook groups. You can get to all of those from the Troll Lord website. And yeah, please, you have absolutely nothing to lose because you can go try it for free. Go to Troll Lord's website, download the old printing, look through it. If you like what you see, check out the revamped, new and improved version. So
And I hope to. I will send you an invite to the Discord if you are not already there. So if people have questions for you, or they can find you on the Troll Lord Discord, correct?
yeah, please do. I didn't even know that you had a Discord channel. I don't think so. Yeah, send me an invite. I'll join.
Yes, we have the Eclectic Herd.
Cool.
Tom, what's coming up?
Well,
When can we expect the dark academia book?
this year, I hope. I mean, it's hard to. I don't have a specific date, but I have finished book one, um, and I am now revising book one. Um, once book one, and so I'm hoping to have the revision finished in a matter of weeks. I mean, maybe even 1 or 2 weeks. Then there will be some time, maybe a couple of months for editing and getting a cover and that sort of thing. But I hope to have it out, um, you know, summer. I mean, all being well, summer or autumn. And in the meantime, I have the books we mentioned, um, the Mara of the League series, which you can get the entire series as one combined ebook, or you can get they're 4 books and you can get them one by one. The first of them is The Witches of Crannock Dale,
You
and
can
then the
you can
the
also find them in audiobooks, which I'm always super excited about because it's so rare that you find more independently published stuff in audio form, so it's really nice.
thank you for mentioning that, because it actually I might have forgotten to mention that, and the I and it would have been a mistake if I had, because Mara of the League is an audio, all 4 books. I am very, very happy with my narrator. I hope you are too. Um, it's on all sorts of platforms. I know that some of us don't like Amazon, and uh, the audio with my audiobooks, you can well you have dozens and dozens of audiobook platforms to choose from, and so so check out Mara of the League. Check out the standalone sequel is The People versus Abigail Bennett, and check out that. And I also I have a website which is thomasmkane.com, um, and if you go there, you can subscribe to my free newsletter. And in the newsletter, I um, I have been I have not been sending them out as often while I've been finishing Sleep of Reason, but your sign that Sleep of Reason is on to the next stage will be when newsletters start appearing again. And the newsletters have updates on my novels, and they also I put something interesting in the newsletter every time. A reason to read it besides um, besides the updates. So there will be essays, stories from stories about fully autobiographical stories. I guess the point I'm making is um, stories about things I've experienced that are for some reason interesting. I don't just say, I had cornflakes for breakfast this morning. I say, the cornflakes attacked me, uh, 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 and but only if they really did. Well, unless I say it's fiction, in which case anything goes. So, thomasmkane.com. Be honored if you'd check out my newsletter. I'm also I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Um, I will when Sleep of Reason is more advanced, I'll be active on other things too. And as Goat pointed out, I am on this channel's Discord group.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I thank you to the chat. Thank you to the panel. This has been a lovely conversation, and no dumpsters managed to catch fire, so that's excellent. I am, as always, the Eclectic Goat. I am here, Twitter and Discord, as the Eclectic Goat. In real life these days, I mostly write nonfiction and I edit newsletters, YouTube scripts, novels, and these days I have an awful lot of tabletop role playing games that I have been editing. I just finished up a first round edit for the Real Life Fake Wizard that some of you may be familiar with. And I have a couple upcoming projects that I can't talk about yet because we haven't signed contracts yet. But I'm really looking forward to both of them. Yes, everyone survived World War I tonight. Sorry, inside joke. Attack of the Killer Cornflakes. I mean, I kind of want to see a cartoon for that now. As everybody knows, I have kind of rolled back some of what I've been doing online. Life was getting crazy busy with babies and jobs and everything else. I am still planning on getting out the recorded videos, the history of zombie movies, and I have a couple of role-playing game reviews that I'm going to be working on at a company that sent me some of their books and asked if I would review those. So that'll be hopefully out either the end of this month or the beginning of next month. So that's what I've got going on. And again, thank you to the chat. Thank you to my panel. And I hope that everyone has a great night.
Thank you very much.
Happy headbutting.
Meet me at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the Eclectic Goat, and I'm here to gab with you. We'll talk about immersion, adventure heavy lows, characters and story, warlocks and barbarians and bards, comedy or horror. We got inspiration if you're in need of it, or just need to hang out somewhere cozy. We're the guys for you, we've got time for you. Come and join the crew, here's what to do. Meet us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the Eclectic Goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards. us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards.